Well, good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me without a microphone?
Oh, yeah.
This is the power of a teacher's voice, even during the summer break. Good morning. Very happy Father's Day. We do have fathers represented here today, and very grateful for all the work that you do in the lives of your family, and especially that of your children. Fathers, please know, just as the good Lord does with mothers, He hears your every prayer, those prayers that are spoken, those that are unspoken, just those cries that come from the very depths of your heart, asking for strength, praying for courage and for mercy and for patience and for love. And for all that you need to continue to raise your children up, training them, keeping them in the fear of the Lord, not an unhealthy fear, but a reverent fear and awe and wonder of the Lord. So the good Lord hears you, and He's there to strengthen you and help you to continue to protect your families now and every day. I know as you watch your children, your sons and daughters have achievements and success and triumph as well as failures, and you see them struggle with disappointments and times of their weakness, whatever the case may be, you're still and always will be their father, and they'll look to you. So continue to follow the Lord and look to Him and ask Him for all you need to answer their questions, and those moments when you just need to hold them in an embrace. So gentleness, sternness, anything in between, the Lord is there to help you. So happy Father's Day to you. I want to say thank you very quickly to all of you who helped with our first like pop-up evening vacation Bible school, and I have to say it was quite lovely. It was wonderful, windy, a little warm, but wonderful nonetheless. So everyone who was able to come out, what was this just this past Monday, right? And was able to help with that. We had a lot of children here, and we had parents, and they got to see you doing some good service and just providing these children with a lot of fun activities as well as the love of the Lord. So thank you, and I do hope that you'll consider, if you weren't able to be a part of a Vacation Bible School this past Monday. Good news, we're going to do another one. The date is to be determined, but pray about it. Maybe you can come out and be a part of that. If nothing else, on these particular occasions, Pastor Jim occasionally will break out with a rap. You know, I freestyle every once in a while. You know, I do this for the kids, but, you know, if you something you want to see, you know, as a bonus, come on out. But it's a good time. And just thank you to everyone who worked hard, and with the cleanup, just seeing everyone step in, and it was just amazing. So thank you for that and for that service. Okay, well, the nice thing about today, it's a treat for me because I get to sit out there with all of you on this particular morning. Very wonderful Father's Day gift. In fact, I don't know if that there could be much better a gift than being able to watch your children go out and serve the Lord faithfully, and then to come back and to report upon it. So that'll be the case this morning. You as a congregation, you supported Rachel both prayerfully and financially. You sacrificed in both ways. And Brenda and I can't thank you enough for that. So I'm going to give some time to Rachel this morning. She was part of a medical missions team to the Philippines, and she will tell you about the good work that was done there. This is good for us. Here in this little rural community, at times we feel a bit closed in, and we forget about the world at large. And there is a great, big, wide world out there with people who need to hear about Jesus and who need to experience the love of Jesus. So, with that, as a happy father, I'm going to give it over to my daughter, Rachel. Oh, she does request. Listen, friends, I know you won't do it for me, but for my daughter, if you move up a little bit so that you can see the images that'll be on the screen, it's just a request. But
I'm gonna say the second one.
please don't, Rachel. They won't do this for me.
I appreciate you guys moving up because there are a lot of good pictures. So, like my dad said, I had the opportunity to go to the Philippines. Thank you. I will try to project. If you guys can't hear me, you can yell at me. But our church, or our school back in Ohio sent us. It's a Christian evangelical school. So they have their own organization called Global Outreach, where they send people through church planting or education, sports ministries, and for us it was in medical missions. They also have pharmaceuticals, dentistry, everything. It's just a really great way to be able to serve the Lord. So me and two other girls who graduated, there we are. We all graduated in nursing this May, so we all have our bachelor's in nursing. Jessica is the brunette with curly hair, and Annika is the one in the middle who everyone thought she was Filipino, but she's adopted from China, so that made for a fun time while we were there. Myself, now that I have passed my NCLEX and gotten my RN license, I will be, yes, thank you for your prayers, who did that. I did pass, and I'm officially an RN. So I will be going back to Ohio in August and starting on a step-down cardiac unit. Annika will be working on an adult GI unit, and then Jess would probably be starting out in the ER, but she loves preventative medicine. So we all kind of came together, and we're able to just show the love of the Lord to everyone. So we were sent to Shalom, which is like the big organization that we were working with. They are a lying-in clinic, which means that they do deliveries for infants and newborns. So some history. Ate Mavis, so sorry, let me back up. Ate is something that I will use a lot because in the Philippines it refers to older sister, which is just a form of respect, so all of them go by Ate. And for the men, they go by Kuya, which means older brother, again, for respect. Okay, sorry. Thank you. So I will be referring to them throughout that just because it's a cultural thing, and I was there for a month, so I got to be part of that. So Ate Mavis was a missionary from England, and she came to the Philippines back in the 1900s, and she found that there was a need because all of the women were giving birth in their homes, so there were a lot of mothers who were dying, a lot of infants that were dying, and they also were not being taught the gospel, and she had a passion for that. So they opened, there's this house right there, and that's where she started the ministry. So that's her own house where she developed this clinic. So she would have probably 50 mothers in there, and she would be helping with deliveries and be praying with them. And I think it was her kitchen counter actually became where all of the newborns were staying and being washed in the sink and everything. So really cool to see how that came to be. In 2005, it expanded back into this. So definitely a bigger building. This building is actually right next to her house, so you can see her house from where we were staying. We were staying actually on the upper level. They have 2 apartments there, so me and the girls were staying in our own apartment. We had a kitchen, so we got groceries and made food for ourselves. So their vision, I wanted to kind of connect to what my dad was saying on his message last week about visions and change of perspective. But their vision is to provide safe, low-cost, excellent care in a God-honoring environment for the most vulnerable families in Greater Antipolo as a means to evangelize and make disciples of Jesus Christ. So Antipolo is where we were, which is about an hour from Manila, the main city in the Philippines. And like I said, expanded in 2005, they have a lot of deliveries. Just recently, the Department of Health put a lot of restrictions on deliveries. So instead of them being able to deliver babies 24/7 like they were, they put a lot of restrictions, so mothers have to be 20 to 30 years old, no pre-existing health conditions, which makes that a lot harder for them, and it narrows their window of who they can evangelize to. So they made a decision to they're not really lying in clinic anymore, and they only provide prenatal care, newborn checkups. But this has become an open door for them. The Lord's opened so many doors where they can go to figure out how they want to evangelize to the community there. So in the future, they're looking towards bringing more children in and evangelizing to them and the parents. They have a Little Warriors program where children with spina bifida, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome can come and they'll work with them. And all of the ates are just so fantastic with how they minister to these families. It is so beautiful, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But it has just been so wonderful to see. So this is our team a little bit. It doesn't show all of the midwives, but there is one that I'd like to point out. So Ate Diane is the one in the black shirt and the jeans. Just last September, she had a brain aneurysm, which, if most of you don't know, it's very deadly, and most people will die from it. But the Lord saved her from that. If she hadn't been in her home and gotten to the hospital in 15 minutes, she would have died. So she has such a strong testimony, and she shares that with everyone that she comes into contact with. So her and Ate Bennett are two ministry midwives. They lead Bible studies every morning in Shalom, and every patient interaction we get to pray with them. So it's just very encouraging. So I'll talk about all of the different outreaches that we did with Shalom first. So the prenatal and neonatal checkups. So they pretty much do ultrasounds looking at where the baby's growing and everything. And so I got to do a lot of those. They had a biker gang donate an ultrasound machine for them. And so I was the only one, because it's an iPad and they don't really know how to use iPads. So I got to use it and teach them how to use it. So I got to do a lot of the ultrasounds, and so did the other girls. So the middle picture shows Ate Dahan showing us on our very first day there how to do an ultrasound. And we had just done a 14-hour flight and got there. So woke up at 8 a.m. the next morning. So it's a very long day. Neonatal checks also, those were every Tuesday. So I'll kind of lay out what our weeks looked like. We had a lot of outreaches in the past. So with all the deliveries, past mission trips that went, they would be doing deliveries day after day after day. We didn't see a single delivery because of the change and only doing prenatal cares. So our time looked a little different, and it was very experimental for the people who sent us to figure out what we're going to do and what it would look like evangelizing to the people. So prenatal checks were every day of the week. Weekends they were closed. At 9 a.m. is when they would start, and they would have a Bible study for the women who were there. And then after each patient interaction, we would pray with them. One Thursday that I was there with one of the ates, we had probably 15 patients, which is actually a lot for them because they just don't get business like they used to. And we prayed with every single patient, and they had me do it, which was a really great opportunity. And these mothers and fathers, they adore seeing someone pray for them in just a little situation. So we had one mother who had gotten bit by a dog, and so she wanted prayers that her newborn infant would be safe when that time came. So it was just a really great time to do that. We also did pap smear clinics. This is just a way for mothers to be diagnosed with cervical cancer if they have it, which is actually a very common thing out in the Philippines. So as a part of Shalom, we would go and partner with some churches in the area, and we would do pap smear clinics. They can have almost up to 60 women come. which is a lot for them. And these midwives, there's only probably like 6 of them, so that's a really long day for them. The first church we went to, we did a lot of vital signs. That was kind of our job. Mind you, we're graduates, so we have a lot more other skills, but vital signs is the way that we could serve them, and it was really great because a lot of them wanted their blood pressure checked or wanted their blood sugar checked. So we were a really big help to these midwives, being able to take 28 people's vital signs. So the first pap smear clinic we had about 28 women come, and then the second pap smear clinic we had probably about 20. And the way these worked was the midwives would lead worship with them, they would lead a Bible study with them, and it could be any woman in the community that come. They don't just have to be members of the church. So we got to pray with them and lead worship and then Bible study. And then one of the midwives would give an education period about it, so that way they know what they're signing up for, if they want to do it or not. And one instance in particular, we were paired with Autai Diane, and we got to perform the pap smears ourselves. But we did have one patient who started crying afterwards, and Autai Diane talked to her for probably 30 minutes, shared her testimony and talked to her, shared the gospel with her, and we were all able to pray with her. And she was just so thankful of that, and she said she's going to return to church again. So that's just, again, one other way that we're able to evangelize to them. Even just doing a pap smear, you can see it on their faces too when they need this good news. So this bottom picture is me with the pastor's wife at the first clinic. She's very excited to hear that my dad's a pastor here. So Mira is her little 5-year-old girl. She's one of the smartest and brightest girls I've met. She knew exactly who Jesus was and the Lord. She knew John 3:16, which is the verse that we hopefully all know. She's just so bright, and for a 5-year-old to be able to know those things in the Philippines is just so wonderful to see. It was just beautiful, and I was very happy. The second church we went to do pap smears is that picture in the middle. So that was also just a great time. There's a lot of creativity and thinking outside the box because we didn't really have the rooms to be able to do pap smears, and they're very invasive. So you kind of want those rooms, so we had to be creative with what we did, putting up sheets, taking care of them. But we had probably about 21 people come. And then we just got to have a time of fellowship with each of the volunteers afterwards because they provided us with lunch, which was very nice. The next outreach that we got to do was baby showers. So we did 2 while we were there. The first church was where we did the pap smear as well. Baby showers consist again of worship, Bible study, and also games and just a fun time with the moms. So Jess is in that picture doing games with them. And the mothers love it. They love to see us, join in with them and celebrate. So for the Philippines, because their families are so large, another birth is just another kid, another mouth they have to feed. So Shalom's hope is to always celebrate a new life. They want them to make sure that this is a newborn. They're glorious. They're made in the image of God. So they deserve all the love. So that's what they do. And one of the churches here in the States, I think they're in Michigan, they actually knit a lot of hats and sweaters for these newborns. And so we actually took those out to them, and they make little goodie bags for the moms, and we hand them out to them. They also get like a little baby cleanser and then some other feminine products. So it's really neat for them to be able to see that, and they get very excited about having those things for their kids. We also get to do home visits. So every Tuesday are newborn screenings and then home visits with Shalom. So we would do prenatal checks. So we take the ultrasound with us and take those vital signs with them. We would also just go see where they're at. And then we would pray with them. The hardest thing about this is that they don't have addresses in the Philippines like we do here. So a lot of the clients would just give like a landmark, say like, oh, hey, we're near this grocery store. And from there, you have to just ask people, hey, do you know where so-and-so lives? And it can take probably 30 minutes, and you still might not even find where they live. So we had a lot of those issues where we could not find where they lived. So the one on the picture on your right, well, yes. This one.
Yeah.
My left. I don't know this. Okay. That is with one of the patients. She's just a very, very bright lady. But it gives you a really good look at their living conditions. They probably have a singular room with probably 10, 15 people living in it. So all in all, that was probably all of our favorite outreach was the home visits, because we got to see how these people were living and really what their needs were. This other picture shows them praying with them. That was just one of the best things too, is praying with them in their home. I don't think we ever had anyone decline prayer, which is just really amazing. So the Rafa Clinic is another clinic that Shalom would partner with. They were also a prenatal clinic, but they also do daycare, or that's the best thing that I can compare it to is daycare. So a lot of the kids don't have places to go. They might have school, but then they don't have anywhere to go after, or they go home and then they don't have anyone with them, which is a very sad situation. So a lot of the kids will go to the Rafa Clinic, where they have a lot of volunteers, and they do games, they do Bible studies. They even have a dentist there, which the Philippines is very lacking dentists. So if you know dentists who want to go on mission trip to the Philippines, they would be very appreciative of that. So they have the kids department, but they also have the mother-baby. So I think this was every Wednesday, and I think they'd probably have about 15 women who would come every week. They would lead in worship and a Bible study. And this was really beautiful because we got to worship in Tagalog, which is their language in the Philippines. And it was just so beautiful to worship with all of these young women who might find it a burden, might be scared, might be fearful, but they were all just so in love with the Lord. And so it was a really beautiful time to be with them. So this was led by Ate Edna and Ate Miriam, who were both missionaries. They came and found the need and provided for them. So every week they meet, and it's a 10-week program where they get education from the midwives. So they do breastfeeding, family planning, just everything that they kind of need to know before they have their delivery. So again, this was just a really special time, and we did a baby shower for them as well. So before I go on to Hope Rescue, Luke 7:14 through 15 says, "Then he came up and touched the bier, and the bearer stood still. And he said, 'Young man, I say to you, arise.' And the dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother." So Doc Becky is one of the nurse practitioners out in the Philippines. She's from Florida, but she went out there. She's been there for probably 8 years now. And she leads a pediatric clinic out there. And she actually brought this passage to us, and she was emphasizing the fact that Jesus gave the son to his mother. So it's really a way, her way of thinking about it is that you're healing the child, but you're also healing the parents, because you are evangelizing to these children, and they're going to go home and their parents are going to say, wow, like my child seems so different now. I want to know what's going on in their lives. And then that opens up another door to spread to them. And I think we can all compare that to Awanas, and that's how we like to think about it, of caring for their children. So later on, I'll talk about a lot of those pediatric clinics that we were able to do, but I just want to keep that in mind, that we were caring for the children, but also for the parents, and then parents and then babies. So it's reversible in that way. So Hope Rescue was another organization that we were able to work with. They are more of the emergency services. They provide CPR training, BLS training. They do have an ambulance, so they go on ambulance runs. They just do all sorts of those things. This isn't the full team. This is like the only picture I had of us. So Kuya Jerry and Kuya Edwin. Kuya Jerry's next to me, and Kuya Lawrence is in the red. but they are like the leaders of Hope Rescue. So they took us scuba diving, which they actually use as a ministry, which I kind of pointed to before I left. But they do have imams who are the leaders of the Muslim church. They will have them, and they get to teach them how to scuba dive, but they also get to pray with them, which is just a really great use of their skills. So one of the outreaches we did with Hope Rescue was a mosque outreach in Tai Tai, which is one of the cities about 15 minutes from Antipolo. So here we did visit the children, which was probably one of my favorite parts as well. Just reminded me of Matthew 19:14, when Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven." Just a beautiful reminder. I mean, we walked up there and all of the kids came straight to us. Like, there was no hesitation. They saw us walking and just ran. So we played Duck Duck Goose with them, which they loved. And just they really just enjoyed us being there, and we enjoyed being able to see them. They did show us what their garden looked like. It's really cool that they can grow eggplant squash in such a dry and humid heat. It'd probably be about like 99 degrees like throughout the week. So very humid, very hot, but they did it. So we walked over to the mosque, which is right next to that village, and we just sat outside and we offered blood pressure screenings and blood sugar screenings. So the Hope Rescue team does this on a weekly basis, and it's really just for them to foster the relationships with the Muslims. They don't really like go out and evangelize like, hey, what you're doing is wrong. They foster the relationship, keep it growing, so that way they can lead to gospel conversations with them. They even have had imams show up to Hope Rescue. They've had them show up to Shalom and talk to them. It's just really, really great. So there's some pictures of us doing that. Another outreach we got to do was hiking to Paglatao. Paglatao is a mountain city, so it's about a 2-mile hike, but it is not an easy hike. So Apia is drivable from the city, but Paglatao is a hike. So it is very muddy, very rocky, and it is just like straight incline. So it took us probably about 2.5 hours to get there. And it is also rainy season, so it did start to downpour on us right as we started, which was refreshing from the heat, but it was also very slippery. So if you think about it, this village has to hike 2 miles, well 4 miles in total, just to go get groceries, get fresh water. It's a very hard life. But on our truck ride back, I was thinking about how the Lord is providing for them with the rainy season. If they have to take a 4-mile hike that is very rough on them just to get water, like fresh water, the Lord's providing their rainy season with actual fresh water that they can just collect in their jugs if they want. So that's just really beautiful to see how the Lord's providing in that. But they do have like horses and mules that they can use, but it's just not super common. And again, because of that hike, they really don't get the health care that they need. So some of them may have blood pressure medicines, but they don't get it on a regular basis, which means that they're really not helping themselves at all. So what we were able to do is just do those blood pressure screenings, and a lot of the families did want blood pressure screenings. They were very concerned about loved ones or even their infants, because a lot of them did home deliveries. So we got to do some infant checkups, and they were all healthy, praise the Lord. So a lot of them, they do care about their health, so it's very special to see that. This again, some more pictures. The one with the kids, that is kind of like their main area of their community. It's a very small community, probably about 50 people there, if that. So a lot of them were out farming, planting their rice, but they do have a small school right across this little play area. And it was really special to see when it was just downpouring, all of the kids ran out to go play basketball. So we hopped in and played with them. But again, it's just really enjoyable to see that they're taking advantage of God's beautiful creation and the nature that He's provided around them. So while it seems like a barrier, it's also just God's providing for them. And something that they do believe culturally is that the mountains will protect them from like tsunamis and stuff. So they really do like being in the mountains because they feel like it's a protective area for them. Another outreach we got to do is night duty. So that's the ambulance runs that they do. Unfortunately, so they would do these ambulance runs every day, and they do it like nightly before COVID hit. But then after COVID, they weren't getting the funding anymore, and gas prices have significantly increased there. So they just don't have the funding anymore to do that, which is really unfortunate because this is a way for them to really get close to the community and really care for these people. So this first night duty that we did was in Tai Tai, where the mosque is. Again, we got to see these beautiful and precious children. So they bring like their homemade chicken noodle soup, and they provide bowls of that soup for them. So they get very excited about it. And then we also, again, provide blood pressure screenings for them if they wanted. This was the second night duty that we did. Again, more blood pressure screenings. The picture in the middle, this is why I say it's so important that they get to do the night duties. So this little boy doing the peace sign, he actually suffers from seizures. So he's a 5-year-old. He's been having them since I think he was like 2 years old. And no one's ever taken to the doctor or anything. So he has about 5 seizures a day. So he was running around Ate Lourdes, who's the one in the front, and she was very concerned because he was saying like, oh, there's a dead guy somewhere. And so we followed him, and he took us home, and then the mom was telling us that he has seizures on a regular basis. So we were able to connect them to Doc Becky, the pediatric doctor, and she's going to get him medicine and get him hooked up with care. So if they had not been out there that night and been able to like take care of that, then maybe that would have continued on. He might not have like continued. So he's going to start kindergarten, I think. I think he already started kindergarten. So he was showing us his backpack and everything. So that's very encouraging for him. And again, we went to another town and did the feeding. Also with that night duty, we did have, we were just driving around because that's kind of what they do. They wait for a motor vehicle accident or just anything. And we were driving by, and we had kids just clamoring on the van. And we opened it, and they just, like, one kid just gets in, and we have no idea what's going on. He had been stabbed, so he made it. They had just gotten out from a church event that night, and actually 2 of the EMTs with us, they knew that neighborhood because they go to church there. And so they were very upset because someone just ruined that reputation of that church by stabbing someone there. But we got to take care of him. We took him to the hospital, and he'll be fine. But it was just very interesting for us to be in that moment at the right time, and that was just a God-given thing, which they get a lot of. Like I think last summer they had a motor vehicle accident, and they were there right on the spot just because that's how it happened to me. So Assist Clinic, that is another organization that we're able to work with. So Doc Becky, this isn't her clinic, but this is one that she works with. So Assist Clinic is run by Hope Rescue, who I just mentioned, and also run by ISC, which is International Service Corps. So every client that shows up gets free care. They don't have to pay for anything, even medications, treatments, whatever, they don't have to pay for it. So they're open, I think, 2 or 3 days out of the week. A lot of the children just come. They might have a cold, or they might have a sore throat, they might have strep throat. One child did have like TB, so we were treating for that, make sure they get their medications up to date. So again, we were just doing vitals for them, but we did get to pray with each patient after every single interaction, which was just so wonderful. That is a picture of me giving a nebulizing treatment. That's culturally, they do not believe in nebulizing treatments. It's very interesting, the treatments they do agree with and others that they don't. So we just have to give a lot of education on these treatments and how they're helping their children, or helping their families. So it was just very interesting doing a lot of education for that. Hope Kids Clinic is Doc Becky's run clinic. This is the one that she set up, and she has probably like at least 100 patients that come to her. So she has quite a reputation there, and it's a very good one. So the picture in the church, That's Morosi Church, which I'll talk about in a little later. This is right across from where her clinic is, which is really small. It's like, I don't know, probably like from here to the end of the stage. That's about how big it is. So she runs that clinic, and we were taking vitals in this Morosi Church, who helps with everything. And we just provide medications. We did meet one kid who has a heart condition, but he's 9 years old, and he has never been to school. Really, he's never been outside just because he'll get too exhausted. But his mom actually really wants him to start school, and she showed that desire to us and the passion that she has for her child to get better. So Doc Becky just said, you know what, we can do it. We can try. So we'll just pray for him, and you know what to do if he doesn't get better. So he gets to go to school. And it's really great to see how a lot of the parents really do care about their children. There are some that don't, but then there are others who just will pour their whole lives into these kids. So Morosi Church, there are not enough words to say how incredible this church is. I mean, I've told my parents about it. It is just so wonderful. So their teens are the ones with like the 11th hour white shirts. Their youth group is called Hope for the Nations. So one reason that I request this song, Goodness of God, is because every single church we went to, every single Bible study, they sang Goodness of God. And that was just a theme that you could see everywhere you went in the Philippines. I mean, they pour their lives, these Christians, they really pour their lives into being followers of God and servants. They will pour everything into their work, everything into their school. I've never seen faith so tangible before. So these youth, this church actually, it's a home church, so they do it in their home, and they have 8 house churches, and in total they probably have about 300 members who go to this house church, which is really incredible. And actually, I think 200 of those are children. So that tells you just how much they really care about caring for the children and then caring for the parents as well. Again, these youth, I've just never seen anything like it. They were very intentional with the church services. So one of them, Angelito in the middle, he actually provided a message on tithing to the church. Each of the youth shared their testimony before we started. And so we just create long-lasting relationships with them. So thank you for your prayers for that, because there was a lot of unity there. So the second church that we went to was Missionaries to Asia, New Life Church. This is one of the midwives churches. Her name is Ate Tina. They probably have about 50 attendees. I don't think their building's much bigger than ours here. But it was just, again, they sang Goodness of God as well. They pour their lives into this. They will give up as much as they need to, and they will just trust the Lord the whole way. For the Mercy Church, we talked to the pastor and the pastor's wife, and they kind of talked about how they really just laid down everything, and they just trusted the Lord. They're like, here you go, Lord, we're going to give it all to you, and we're just going to pray day in, day out. And the Lord really did. He slowly provided. So it's just, we talked about, after going to these churches, how incredible it was to see what the Lord is doing in the Philippines, and how their faith is just like nothing you've ever seen before. So our last week there, we had a physical therapy clinic. This is where we had our Filipino team, so Hope Rescue, the Assist Clinic, everyone there. And then we also had a team from a church in Florida, who consisted of physical therapists, just people in the church who were going to build for us. So this PT clinic consisted of, we had 15 select children from Doc Becky's clinic, and they consisted of cerebral palsy, spina bifida, Down syndrome, and autism. And so we would provide physical therapy for them, and then we would also do feeding therapies. So this is Marcel on the right with his standard. So a lot of these kids obviously do not have the resources like we do here in the States. So the American team from Florida, they brought out all of this equipment. I mean, there was probably 15 luggage bags that they brought out, which is just incredible. So the guys built this stander for a lot of the kids with cerebral palsy, and this is just a picture of him using it at home. So it really shows that the parents are dedicated to caring for their children. These parents, I mean, they work every single day, day in, day out. Like, I know a lot of us do here, but I mean, that is their life. So they go to work, and then the kids might be home like all day without anyone there. And then, you know, parents come home, and then they have this medically complex kid that needs time, and they just don't have that time with their mom or their dad to, you know, stand or do their feeding therapy or their exercises. So it's just really hard to see that. But we got to work with them, and then the parents just, they show that they want to do the practices with the kids, they want to do the exercises. So again, this is one of the other kids. He's 15 years old with cerebral palsy. Chances of him walking aren't super high just because he's on the older side, and getting his legs to form that way is just really hard. But even so, like his parents again are just so dedicated. He's dedicated to help himself. The picture in the top part is them building all the standards. So a lot of the American team, they brought the stuff out, and they were right there on the spot building all the standards, all the wheelchairs, taking measurements of the kids. Just wonderful to see all the teamwork. In the back, you can kind of see on the cabinets all of the casts that they brought out. So they gave each of these casts to the kids. It's just to stabilize their footing, and so that way they can walk if they're able to. So this is the big team that was there for the PT clinic. Again, none of it would have happened without, like, if we were missing parts, because I mean, there were just people there that were driving to each of the homes and getting all of the patients, taking them there. They were providing meals for the families. They were taking them back. And then we had a waiting room where they would play with the children, and they would do Bible studies with the kids and sing worship songs. So altogether, it was just a great time. And there were some youth from Hope for the Nations that just did a fantastic job working with those kids. So ultimately, I just want to thank you guys so much for supporting me in this. It was such a wonderful trip, and I really do hope I get to go back at some point, just because there are long-lasting relationships there, and they are growing every single day and just praising the Lord. The goodness of God is really with them, and they can see that every single day. So I just want to thank you guys so much for that, and thank you for listening. I just really appreciate it. So, yeah.
I can tell she's my daughter.
She don't run over time like you do.
I told her she could have all the time she wants.
Yeah.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate that very much. And
Thank you.
like I said earlier, just thank all of you for supporting Rachel, lifting her up in prayer, and you can see the results of that. And hopefully, as you were listening and watching, you saw a lot of what we were talking about last week, and just what happens when you capture that vision and the Lord opens your eyes and He provides and people step in through those open doors of opportunity, and we see lives changed because they're reaching out with the love of the Lord. And so grateful that she and Jess and Annika were able to have that experience. I'm going to close us in prayer. Surely the goodness of God cannot be argued, right? God is good. So, yep, all the time. Lord, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for this time. We thank you for this experience that you gave Rachel and the rest of the team. We're thankful for those who traveled and for those who live in the region, all joining forces, all gathering together, all looking to you for strength and for wisdom and for guidance as they minister to those people who are in need, whether they be parents or children, Just the very fact that you're touching their hearts and touching their lives is just astounding, Lord. We just pray that you would help us to remember those individuals and other parts of the world outside our community, outside of our nation. Surely you are at work everywhere, and your work is good, and you are good, and we are just so grateful for that. I pray that the passion and the fire that you ignite within Rachel and other young adults would not be extinguished by the world, the flesh, or the devil. I pray for the young people in our congregation here that they would continue to be inspired to do great exploits for you, knowing that you will equip them with all they need. I pray that we would see just incredible passion in our young people to serve you, and that it would inspire all of us to do the same. So we thank you again for this morning, and all that is said, all that's done for your glory, for your honor. It's your kingdom that we seek to extend here, there, everywhere. In Christ Jesus' name, amen.